In our next activity, we're going to have to work with inverses of functions that involve multiplying by fractions. In order to undo multiplying, we divide, so we'll have to work with dividing by fractions. Dividing by fractions can be changed to the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. We're going to use this strategy to help us with these three problems. In the first problem, I have 8 divided by 1/2. Instead of dividing by 1/2, I can rewrite this as 8 times the reciprocal of 1/2. Remember, reciprocal means to flip the fraction, denominator becomes numerator, and vice versa. So the reciprocal of 1/2 is 2/1. 8 times 2/1 is 16. If I had 8 pieces and divided each of those into halves, I'd have 16 total pieces. 2/3 divided by 1/5. I'm dividing 2/3 by 1/5, which I'll change to 2/3 times the reciprocal of 1/5 is 5/1. When you multiply fractions, numerators, 2 times 5 is 10, 3 times 1 is 3, we get 10/3. And finally, 4/5 divided by 2/3 can become 4/5 times the reciprocal. Instead of dividing by 2/3, we'll multiply by 3/2, which gives me 12/10. Now, if you recall, 12/10s can be simplified. It's actually easier to simplify it here. A 2 goes into 4 2 times, a 2 goes into 2 once. So we're simplifying as we do that. 2 times 3 is 6, 5 times 1 is 5. We would have gotten 12/10, which would simplify to 6/5. We will now see how this is going to be helpful for us in finding inverse functions. So if I look at this function, the first thing I do to x is add 5. And after adding 5, we would multiply by 2/3. To find the inverse, I'm going to take these two steps and reverse their order and take the opposite. So the opposite operation of multiplying by 2/3 would be to divide by 2/3. But we're going to change that to multiply by the reciprocal. 2/3 is 3/2. So instead of dividing by the fraction 2/3, we're going to make it times 3/2. Our next step would be to take the opposite of add 5, which is subtract 5. So now our inverse, f inverse of x, would be equal to, we're going to take my x value, and the first thing I'm going to do to that x value is to divide by 2/3, which is multiplying by 3/2. So 3/2 x, and the last thing I need to do is subtract 5. So this looks much better than the alternate, which would have been f inverse of x is equal to, the first thing doing to x would be dividing by 2/3 and then subtracting 5. This is our preferred answer. This is mathematically equivalent to it, but this is what we're looking for.